take your clothes off. And I said, but I don't really know you. And she was like, no, you need to put this robe on. And I was like, oh, I have tendonitis in my hand. Why do I need to take my clothes off? Sir, it's just our standard operating procedure. It's our policy. And I said, yeah, I have a policy too. It's called I'm not taking my clothes off for a girl until I'm married to her. So now the nurse is getting kind of frustrated with me. She's like, all right, well, just here, take it. So we compromised. I put the robe on over my clothes. So then she was like, all right, well, just sit here and be quiet. Don't say anything else. So I'm sitting in there. So she leaves. I put this robe on, still got my clothes on. I'm sitting there. The battery on my iPod dies. My little Nintendo DS dies. I'm sitting there literally for 2 hours waiting. And I'm thinking to myself, I hope they don't close, because it's getting late. And in like a half hour, the place is going to close. And I'm like, if the lights go off when I'm in here, that's it. I'm quitting. I'm going home. I don't really feel like doing this anymore. So yeah, I'm sitting there and I'm waiting. And I'm thinking to myself, all right, as long as I'm in here, I mean, I'm in here so long, I might as well take, go through the drawers and take the medicine and a needle. I'll go home and look up on WebMD. I'll inject myself with what I need to. I'll heal myself. Forget it. I don't want to wait that long. Go to 1 Samuel chapter 13. It's 13 verse 7. You there?
Yes.
It says, some of them crossed the Jordan River and escaped to the land of Gad and Gilead. Meanwhile, Saul stayed at Gilgal, and those who were with him trembled with fear at what awaited them. Samuel had told Saul earlier to wait 7 days for his arrival. But when he didn't come and Saul's troops were rapidly slipping away, he decided to sacrifice the burnt offering and the peace offerings himself. But just as he was finishing, Samuel arrived. Saul went out to meet him and to receive his blessing, but Samuel said, what have you done? Well, Saul replied, when I saw that my men were scattered from me and that you hadn't arrived by the time you said you would, and that the Philistines were at Michmash ready for battle, I said that they will march against us, and I didn't want to go without asking the Lord for help, so I reluctantly offered a burnt offering waiting for you to arrive. And Samuel said, you fool, you have disobeyed the commandment of the Lord your God. He was planning to make you and your descendants kings of Israel forever. But now your dynasty must end. For the Lord wants a man who will obey him. And he has discovered the man he wants and has already appointed him as king over the people. For you have not obeyed the Lord's commandment. How do you guys know, when we try to take the matters into our own hands, it never goes that well? We have to remember why we went to God in the first place. See, we never go to the doctor when we're not sick. We don't go to the doctor when nothing's wrong with us. But the reason why we go is because, all right, there's something wrong with me and I need to get this taken care of. Well, see, a lot of times in our life, we go to God, it's like, all right, I'm struggling in this situation, but we don't wait for God to do what he needs to do. So we get tired of it, we just get impatient, and we say, all right, I'm just going to try to take these matters into my own hands. And I think I can fix it myself. Well, so then what's the point of asking God to move on your life then? If you're going to get to that place, remember what it is that you're doing in that small, cold room. You're in there waiting for God to do something. And yeah, it's uncomfortable in there. But you have to remember, this is why I'm here. This is why I'm a Christian. I'm here. I'm waiting for God to move in my life. I'm waiting for God to do something. This is my purpose. This is the plan he has for me. So I'm sitting in there waiting for this doctor to come in. And I did what anybody in here would do. I started opening the drawers and playing with all the little doctor's toys and stuff. And there was like one of the little skeletons hanging up in there, and it had some, like a kidney and stuff and all these little things in there. So I started, messing around with it. I took one of the gloves and I put one of the gloves over the skeleton's head. And I took a little straw and blew it in the bottom of it so it looked like it was kind of like a little rooster thing on the top of the head. And then I dressed the skeleton up with one of the doctor's robes. I put that on, and I took out one of the needles, and I opened the thing up, and I put it up against the skeleton's head. And the doctor walks in as I'm holding this needle up to this little skeleton head, and I'm telling the skeleton, tell me what I want to know. And I turn around, and the doctor's standing there with his clipboard. And I look over at him, and I have one of the doctor's robes on too, and I'm like, come on, man, you know, people have had to do this before. It's like, I've never seen someone interrogate my skills. But I made it a point to try to enjoy myself, even though I'm sitting there waiting for hours and hours. When we're going through situations and things in our life, when we're waiting on a move of God, we need to enjoy ourselves while we're there. Don't sit there, it's like, oh God, you know, all this is happening, and we just sit there, you know, moping and whining and crying, waiting for God to move, and it's like, I can't cheer up until God does something. No. You should enjoy yourself. Be happy in your salvation with Christ. Yes, you're going to go through things and you're going to sit in that waiting room for a while, but make it a point to enjoy yourself. Force yourself to have fun as you're living for Christ. Know this, I may be waiting in here, but I know sooner or later God's going to come through that door and fix me, but while I'm here, I'm going to enjoy it. Amen? So the doctor walks in, I sit down, and he asked me about why I still had my clothes on under the robe, and I told him there was a little controversy with me and the nurse. So he said, okay. So he looks over at my hand, and he's like, okay, and he has this big smile on his face, right? So I'm thinking, it's like, wow, okay, this is okay. You know, because when a doctor's smiling, it usually means something good for you. So the doctor looks at my hand, and he's like, okay, well, you see what we're going to do, Jonathan? Smiling really big. We're going to have to give you a cortisone shot. And it's going to hurt really bad. And I look back at him. No. He said, well, you're going to have to do it. It's like, but you just said it's going to hurt really bad. Well, I know, but it's something that we're going to have to do because it's going to hurt. But you have to do it in order to fix you. You're not going to get better until we do this. So he takes this needle. It's like this. Well, you know, I like this, but that's how big it is in my nightmares. This big needle, and yes, it hurt really bad. There was another time I went to the doctor because I slammed my thumb in the car door. Don't do that. It hurts really bad. So, and I don't remember, Mom and Dad, which one of you guys were with me when I went for that? I don't know. One of them were there with me. And, you know, when you smash your finger or your nail or something, the blood comes up on the nail. It hurts really bad. So I walk in the doctor's office, and this was kind of the opposite of, you know, what this other guy was. I'm sitting there with, you know, one of my parents, and the doctor looks at my finger. He grabs my hand. He's like, Now, you know, whenever the doctor does that, it kind of means something bad for you. My heart just sunk. No, that can't be good. The doctor just made that face. So he looks at me with all seriousness, no sarcasm or anything. He says, Jonathan, looks like what we're going to have to do is going to have to use a torch and burn the blood out from under your finger. Now when you hear that, what do you think about? Because all I pictured in my mind was this doctor with a blast shield over his face and a torch setting my hand on fire. If one of my parents weren't in the room, I was going to run out there screaming, he's going to set me on fire! Woo! I didn't know that the torch was just like a pen with a hot tip on the end, and he burned through my nail, you know, to make. I mean, I was freaking out because he looked at me. He didn't say what it was, and he looked distraught as he's saying it. Jonathan, so young. You know, I mean, I'm freaking out, and when I went back. Backtracking now to when I was getting that needle for my hand, when the doctor walked out to get the shot, to give me that cortisone shot in my hand, I tried to escape. Now, you ever wonder what the nurses are doing when they're not checking somebody's temperature and giving you blood pressure? They're standing guard. I'm serious. I peek my head out the door because I'm trying to get away from this. I peek my head out the door, and there's two nurses already about to jump me. Sir, you have to get back inside that room. Oh my God. That night I had a nightmare. There was nurses standing outside my room with M16. Sir, you can't come out. And, you know, and I wanted to get away because I knew